You know, after watching this episode, I ended up being in a great mood for the rest of the day. I mean, like, it's amazing how a good chapter or episode or any piece of media can just like affect your emotions and your mood for like a long period of time. And that's exactly what this ending did for me. I think it's like positive vibes ended up, I don't know, affecting me somehow, because this episode was very positive for the most part. And I think that plus just like the satisfying conclusion that we got from the Ever After just combined into just pure energy that just got shot inside of me. Like, once again, I'm incredibly impressed with what this chapter did for me, like, you know, mind, body, and soul. But yes, we are talking about chapter 10 of volume 9, my new favorite volume of this series. It used to be volume 2, but now it's volume 9. I think I made the joke that like I'm just a huge fan of volumes that really separate itself from the main plot. Like, volume 2 had moments where they cared about the plot, you know, with like Cinder's like doing some stuff in the background and stuff like that, and Roman and all that stuff, but like not much to do with like Salem and things, and there wasn't that, and it got distracted here and there, like with the dance. Yeah, this volume really had nothing to do with volume with all the past volumes, and I still felt very, very satisfied watching it throughout like the past 2 or 3 months. And then when we returned to Vacuo, or when we returned to Remnant, I didn't have this feeling of going like, oh, thank God it's over. And I also didn't have a feeling going like, oh man, now we have to go back to the original plot. I felt satisfied. Sad that we had to leave the Ever After, because I was very impressed with what Kruby's writers and visuals team and audio team and everything did to make that world feel alive. So yes, it's sad that we're leaving these characters in this world, but at the same time, I've had enough in a way. Like, I didn't have too much, I didn't have too little. I had enough that I'm satisfied. And maybe that's why I feel so positive, because it's like we're leaving on good terms with this world. Like, compared to volume 8's very sad and very mysterious cliffhanger ending, this ending felt very like hopeful. Like, okay, we went through that, now we're going back, we're feeling renewed, we're feeling, funny enough, energized after just finishing off a huge fight. We feel ready to take on Salem. Like, you know, we just got out of the hot springs and we're raring to go, you know? So yeah, I mean, this was a really good experience, I feel like, for the characters, but also for us, the viewers. I feel like this was necessary. A sort of break from the plot, but at the same time, a break in order to, like, you know, kind of return to ourselves and figure out these characters again. Go take our eyes away from Salem and Osmond and all that stuff and turn to Ruby and the others and be like, how are you guys doing? Funny enough, though, I feel like we didn't really get that with Weiss. I think there are definitely still things with Weiss and maybe the other characters as well. I still think I have a whole thing with Yang and Blake and the murder of Adam, and how, you know, yeah, Adam was a terrible monster, but they have a problem with like killing somebody, and I feel like that is a storyline that might come back. But yeah, like, there are still things with our characters that we have to go through, especially Weiss. And I think that's going to be dealt with in volume 10 when that is officially, hopefully, greenlit. But yeah, there are still things with these characters. But, you know, for Ruby and, you know, in some cases, Blake and Yang, there has been things that we were able to turn around and go like, hey, let's talk about this real quick. Let's deal with this. So I will always be happy with the Ever After for giving us that. But we even got little inklings of the main plot in this episode. We've been getting inklings throughout the volume, like here and there, more just like, you know, reviewing what happened. But this was, I feel like, as far as I remember right now, the first time that we actually like sat down and went like, okay, time to prepare for future volumes. Starting with Summer Rose. We got a lengthy flashback with Summer. I was very, very happy about that. I was worried, you know, we were just gonna get like a little bit like we did in the last chapter, and it was just gonna be her going like, oh, you know, just be who you are and then leave that mother's promise and then head out, and then that was it. But no, we got a scene with Ty, which was, by the way, very, very cute. Ty looked very young, and both of them were just really adorable together. And then after, we got something with Raven and Summer, and I feel like, funny enough, no offense to Ty, but I feel like Summer really showed her true self when Raven appeared. Like, I like that characteristic. It wasn't just like a hopeful mom who was all good and stuff. Like, she has a bit of a snarkiness to her, and I like that. Like the way she bumped Raven. It's like, oh, okay, you got a little bit of a spike to you, and I like that. But yeah, I mean, both scenes looked really, really good. The lighting was great. The moon, it's crazy how I missed Remnant. There's a piece of me that definitely missed Remnant, because seeing that shattered moon, I was like, oh my god, we're back. Oh my god, we're back. You know, it was nice. And like I said, the scene looked really good. Speaking of Raven, I kind of feel bad for her, because yeah, she did abandon her daughter. She does definitely have her problems. But like the way that Summer bumped Raven, I was just like, man, everybody's got beef with her on Team Stark. Like, what did she do that was so bad? You know, Ty talked about it in Volume 4, like how her character and the way that she is broke that team apart. But it's like, what did she do to make you guys have beef with her like that? You know, like, I feel like everybody had kind of like beef, except of course, you know, Summer and Ty. But like the way Ty was looking at Crow 2 in Volume 3, like they all got things are a bit, you know, heated between them all. So I definitely think with this scene, it's telling us that yeah, Volume 10, we're gonna be focusing more on Team Stark, and I like that. But this also opened up a lot of questions too, as far as like Raven and Summer. Like, where did Raven take Summer? Because Raven's only able to take her portals to places where people who she connects to are located. So who did she teleport to? And like, was this a 2-man team maybe to defeat Salem? Was this a 3-man team? Maybe there was somebody else that even Crow, Ozpin, Ty don't know about, that Raven knows about, and that's who she portaled to, and that's who Summer and Raven took to fight Salem. Maybe so that's with that is probably going to bring another confrontation between her and Ruby and Yang especially. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to with Team Stark, and I'm glad we're finally focusing on it. It's been way, like, this should have been probably focused on a while back, so I'm glad that they're finally focusing on it. The second thing that, you know, is sort of giving us some more context on the main plot was the Gods flashback, and I will say that the Gods flashback looked amazing. I'm really glad that they introduced this like illustration flashback style, because I really hope that that's something that sticks around and isn't just in this like fairy tale setting, because it's really, really good. Not just like the idea of it, but the artworks as well. Like, the gods look so good. Like, they started off looking very, very adorable, and then their second phase, like, they just looked cool, like really, really cool. So like, yeah, I do hope that kind of stuff sticks around, and I'm a huge fan of it. I'm glad that they introduced it. But yes, we finally see their real origins. I'd like to meet the absolute bozo who came up with the idea that the gods was once this one giant big space dragon that was just roaming through through space, and they felt lonely, so he decided to just split into 2 dragons. Like, listen, I get it. Obviously, nobody was there when that happened. Nobody was there when the gods were just part of the ever after. You know, nobody was there. It makes sense that somebody would eventually come up with something. But like, where did the guy just come out of nowhere and be like, yes, once upon a time the gods were one god, and that god was a space dragon? But yeah, I mean, learning more about them, learning that the fact that they were Afterins themselves, and they, you know, had their own role to play with destruction and creation. I like that, by the way. I liked how, you know, both were very, very necessary in order for Ever After to thrive and survive. And yes, they were the ones that like created the roles and made the land and everything like that. But like the fact that the tree is even older than the gods, it's like, okay, well, what made the tree? It's like, it creates that mystery once again, you know, of like just a little mystery that doesn't even need to be solved. Just like, okay, the tree, where did the tree come from? Who knows? Is the blacksmith the tree? Have they always been there, or, you know, are they Alex? You know, we don't really know. But yeah, just like I don't mind little mysteries like that just being left unsaid, being left for the audience's imagination. But yeah, I also do like the talk of balance that the blacksmith mentioned. Speaking of her, that was I think very very interesting considering the god's actions. Like how the blacksmith talked about how balance and how it's not like a battle between light and dark, but instead it was more like being patient and being like a kind and letting letting your creations learn and stuff like that. Like that's balance. And it's funny because the gods destroyed their people because they spoke out of turn. They dared to go against them. So it's like in a sense the gods forgot what balance was, or maybe they never learned. And I think that's going to be very interesting because I think Ruby is definitely going to bring that back either towards the gods or maybe towards Salem. Like, yes, maybe she'll go up to Salem and be like, yes, the gods were wrong. We met their parent and the gods were wrong for what they did. Definitely. We're with you with that. Because I think one of the things also is the fact that, trying to beat Salem isn't really the way to go, but instead I think it's going to be Talk no Jutsu. And I know, Talk no Jutsu, oh no, it's been memed on the fact that it's like, oh, that's the easy way out. But I mean, I like shows that kind of go like, hey, battling isn't everything. Some ways to deal with things is just to talk. Like I feel like murder is easy. Beating them is easy. It's interesting, sure. It's like, oh, I said that very strangely. Murder is not interesting, but watching our characters find creative ways to beat their villain is interesting. But I think what would be even harder, and I think we learned that a little bit with Ambrosius, is talking to our main villain and finding a way to have them understand. And I think with a character like an immortal being like Salem, that might be the way to go. Once again, I know some people are definitely not going to be happy with that, but I'll be interested to see how they talk to her, Finally, with the gods, I just want to quickly talk about how the dark god, or the god of darkness, was willing to forgive the Jabberwock because that was one of their creations. I wish we got more on the Jabberwock, but whatever. But yeah, the Jabberwock was one of the god's earlier creations, and the god of light was like, all right, this guy's out of hand. We gotta crush him. We gotta destroy him. That's the end of that. But the god of darkness was like, no, I'm not going to just destroy. They're doing their job. They're learning, And the thing is, it's not like the god of darkness was like, yes, they are destroying. I like this. But instead, they were like, no, I'm not going to destroy our creation just because they messed up, just because they've made their mistakes. I would rather them continue and just, I think the issue was with them, maybe the issue with the God of Darkness is that they were just willing to let them destroy until they learned their lesson. Maybe that's a bit of the extreme, but they weren't willing to just destroy them because they made mistakes. Meanwhile, the God of Light is like, nah, we got to destroy them. They're ruining the balance. And that's when they would butt heads on that. And meanwhile, in Remnant, it's like the God of Darkness was like, nope, Thanos snapped and everybody got destroyed. So like, there's a bit of, it makes me think like, did the God of Darkness change his mind? What's going on there? Is this maybe foreshadowing somewhat to what they're going to do in the future? There's a lot. I think there's definitely a lot to go by with the gods' story and the fact that they did come from the ever after. Their opinion on life and death and coming back and things like that. I mean, especially if this was definitely planned. If this was planned, the gods coming from the ever after. I wonder if the ever after, like their home, if that affected their decision, at least the God of Light's decision to bring people back. But yeah, I think there are definitely a lot of discussions you can have with the gods. And like I said, the gods in Summer Rose, this being a part of the story is definitely like preparing us and getting us ready for future volumes, which I'm very, very excited for. We end the episode in Vacuo. We have the OST playing in the background. This will be the day. Very cool rendition. I cannot wait until the OSTs drop so I can just listen to all of them. They were all really, really good. And then we end it with a dramatic shot of Vacuo, very similar to the dramatic shot of Atlas and Haven. So yeah, I mean, we have all those ships up there. It's very interesting how it's not just Vacuo ships, but we have Atlas ships, we have Veil ships, we have Mantle ships, all lined up they've heard the call that Ruby made. We don't know when they've landed because the blacksmith was like, it's not where you will land, but when you will land, when you are needed. And I think that's very interesting because I guess they weren't needed before, and it's like, okay, what does that mean? So it's like, were they able to come together? I have some theories, but I'm wondering, like, were they able to come together without Ruby? And then now, once they were together, Ruby came. I'm sure it hasn't been that long, but it's been long enough where we have Amity, the Amity Coliseum, Maria and freaking not Geppetto. I can't remember his name right now. But like, they've both arrived. We have a bunch of ships arriving. I think once we get there, we're gonna have like all the leaders, they're coming up with plans, possibly arguing, and like everybody's here. We're trying to get things done. And I think that's gonna be very much the focus of Volume 10, really coming together. And I'm sure that hasn't been done since the Great War, so it's gonna be very interesting. It gives me like Allied Shinobi vibes, like how at first everybody was like, you Sand Shinobi killed my father, and now you're gonna pay, and stuff like that. And then after that, you have like Gaara come in and be like, listen to my badass voice and let me soothe you into world peace. And then they went out and fought. Like, I think it's gonna be very similar to that. Like, they've all come together, but they're not in sync yet.